The Doctor. In the TARDIS. Next stop, everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS, ready to talk some Doctor Who, some modern Doctor Who, with my wonderful co-host, my fellow partner in time, and guy who's trapped late at work, Jesse Jackson. How you
I
doing,
am good,
Jesse?
Charles. Yes, I am recording in a different location than normal, but ready to talk Doctor Who, ready to talk a modern era episode, and an episode that features my favorite Doctor and my favorite companion.
So here at episode 198, we're going to be talking Gridlock from the David Tennant era, obviously. And if you're kind of wondering why Jesse is maybe sound a little subdued tonight, that's probably
Yes.
why. But yeah, so Gridlock, written by Russell T Davies, directed by Richard Clark, which was the third episode from Series 3 in 2007, starring, of course, David Tennant as the 10th Doctor, and Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones, one of our favorite Doctor companion pairings. And really looking forward to talking about this one with you. This is one that we've talked about, reviewing every so often. It would come up, and then other things would come up, and we kind of get distracted. So we're finally getting around to Gridlock, and again, looking forward to your thoughts, Jesse.
And we're in a rarity lately. It's just you and I, which is not a bad thing. I always like going old school.
Sorry about your luck.
No. This is a joy. I had not watched Gridlock since I originally watched it. And I remember not I remember not liking the episode at all. Like, as in, this
Really?
was an episode that I felt was kind of one of those meh, really not that interesting. In fact, I would have ranked this a pretty poor episode. Watching it a second time, I liked it more than I thought. I remembered liking it. I still don't think it's a great episode, but I did like it more than I originally thought I was going to.
Good. So it should be more of a good discussion then, because you're coming at it from a more mature, more seasoned Doctor Who viewer perspective.
Now, how about you? Did you have any what was your initial thoughts, when you're going in this? Did you have some thoughts about the episode?
Well, this isn't obviously a very big episode, but I think it's a very enjoyable episode. I think it's perfectly decent. We get the Doctor and Martha. They get separated in this one, and they have to kind of fight to get back together. And those stories are always fun because it kind of gets to see a little bit of how the companion does without the Doctor around in that way. And we get to meet some great supporting characters in this one. Russell T Davies does a great job of fleshing out, people that would normally be throwaway characters and giving them their own personas, a little bit of depth and a little bit of substance, more than they probably would have, given this particular type of story.
Well said.
And then we also get the return of Novice Hame in the Face of Bo, which obviously we're going to talk about, because, hey, this is the final appearance of the Face of Bo.
Yes.
So I'm sure we've got one or two thoughts
Absolutely.
on that. All right, so guest cast in this one, we have the great Ardal O'Hanlon, fellow Irishman, as Thomas Kincade Brannigan, the old-fashioned cat in this one. Great character actor. Really enjoyed his performance. We also have Anna Hope returning as Novice Hame. And last time we saw her was on New Earth, which I don't believe we still haven't talked about that one yet. If I'm
I
not
don't
mistaken.
think we have.
I'm not sure. I have to check on that one. And then she also returned just recently during the Doctor Who lockdown for The Secret of Novice Hame, where we kind of got to witness the death of her character.
Made me want to go and watch that little mini episode again after watching her and revisiting her character. I made me want to go do that. I haven't done it yet, but it's on my list of things to do.
Yeah, and she's also in one of the TARDISodes, the very first mini episodes that we got during the second season, with kind of a prelude to New Earth a little bit. So if you want to check those out on probably the DVD set. She's also played in Big Finish audios. She's portrayed a pretty notable supporting recurring character, D.I. Patricia Menzies, who turned up in Colin Baker's Big Finish audios while he's traveling with Charlotte Pollard. This is where Charlie is now traveling with the Sixth Doctor.
Ah, okay.
So a little spoilers there, but those are definitely worth checking out.
Good.
I thought the Sixth Doctor and Charlie worked not as good as the Eighth Doctor and Charlie, but I think they work really well together. And I thought Charlie holds her own, with the Sixth Doctor rather well. So I highly recommend checking those out. And like I said, you've got Anna Hope as D.I. Menzies in those. So check those out. Travis Oliver plays Milo, and he was cast as the Big Finish audio version of Chris Quedge, who was a Seventh Doctor companion created for the Doctor Who New Adventures novels from Virgin that came out in the Wilderness years after the show had originally concluded in 1989. Right. And they've adapted some of those novels and also continued those adventures with those companions for Big Finish. So it was pretty cool, 20 years earlier, to be reading about the character and then to finally hear him for Big Finish. And then we have, he's also been on an episode of Pennyworth, too, if you want to check that out. Highly recommend checking out Pennyworth. Great show. Lenora Critchlow played Sheen, and she did play in the Seventh Doctor, Big Finish audio, the Architects of History, as a character named Rachel Cooper, but most fans, like yours truly, know her from playing Annie Sawyer, the lovable ghost character on the UK version of Being Human. I highly recommend checking those episodes out because that show was created by Toby Whithouse, one of the writers on Doctor Who, and it was a great little series. Especially the UK version. Highly recommend it.
Lenora, right?
Lenora Critchlow.
Yeah, she's also starring in Avenue 5, which is the comedy HBO series, which is interesting. I mean, it's not great, but it's fun.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to bring up. That so if you want to kind of see her on HBO, she's also on that show as well. And let's see, Struan Rogers, who does the voice of the Face of Bo, previously appeared and did the voice in New Earth as well. And he was also the character Clayton in The Woman Who Lived from the Peter Capaldi era.
Nice. And
he recently voiced the Kasavan in the Jodie Whittaker story Spyfall.
There you go.
That we just talked about here earlier this year. And he's also in the movie Stardust, which is a particular favorite of mine because it's kind of based on a Neil Gaiman and Charles Vest graphic novel that was adapted into a Neil Gaiman novel.
Absolutely. And
then into a film, which is very cool. And also in the movie Chariots of Fire. So this guy's been around a lot.
Yeah, he has been.
Jennifer Hennessy plays Valerie Brannigan, the wife, of course, of Thomas Kincade Brannigan. And you probably recognize her from playing Moira, the foster mom to Bill Potts during the Peter Capaldi era. We just talked about her not too long ago in The Pilot, and she was also in Extremis from the Peter Capaldi era, Series 10. And lastly, we have Bridget Turner as Alice Cassini.
Oh, very nice.
So I thought I'd mention her as well, because she has a pretty notable role in this. Trivia in this one, Russell T. Davies used some hymns, which I'm sure Jesse appreciated, to signify hope and the togetherness of the members on the motorway. And those on the motorway sung the hymns, The Old Rugged Cross. And at the end of the episode, you can hear the hymn, Abide With Me.
Yes, they did.
So did you catch
I
those?
did. Good version of Old Rugged Cross. I actually tweeted Alan Jackson did a couple of CDs of religious music several years ago, and he did a very stripped-down version of Old Rugged Cross. And as I was raised Southern Baptist, that brought back much happy memories. One of my favorite songs to sing while I was in church.
Well, good. So did it seem a little weird to hear that on a British TV show?
It worked in the context of the series, but if you had told me, hey, we're going to be in this worldwide traffic jam and they're going to play, a hymn, you're like, huh? What? Like if you have dogs that have a crooked head that kind of look at you like, what?
You kind of go,
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it ended up working, but no, it was a little strange at first. I agree.
Yep. Russell T Davies, on a different note, based many aspects of New York on Mega City 1 from the anthology comic 2000 AD. That was a British comic series that obviously featured most notably Judge Dredd.
Oh, okay.
So he also included the businessman that the 10th Doctor comes across as he's going down from car to car. The businessman's appearance was based on a character named Max Normal from the Judge Dredd comics, and a character of Sally Calypso. The hologram was a homage to another serial in 2000 AD called The Ballad of Halo Jones.
Okay.
Which featured a similar character named Swifty Frisco. Sally Calypso, Swifty Frisco.
Oh, there you go. I see that.
Pretty similar. And then, of course, I'm sure if you're an art buff, you probably caught at the very beginning of the episode the old couple that kind of gets chewed up by the macra in the teaser.
Yes.
That was obviously based on the farming couple that appear in the painting American Gothic. Very famous painting. All they needed were the pitchforks.
And do you know that is father and daughter, not husband and wife?
Oh, really?
I just recently found that out. That yes, that was actually a father and a daughter, not a husband and wife in the original painting.
That's kind of sad because the daughter looks old enough to be his wife.
Yes, it does. I agree, but yes.
Yeah. And then lastly, of course, Alice and May Cassini were the very first homosexually married couple featured in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So this is kind of one of those groundbreaking stories where Russell T Davies kind of get to push the boundaries a little bit of what's considered acceptable television, and so glad he did because it's great to see like an old lesbian couple in this way back in 2007.
Yeah, I totally agree. I thought that was a really nice little moment. Real quick, just because I really like the series, Lenora Crislow was also in the very short run one season in ABC Deception, which was a magician helps the FBI. Like a psychic.
Because that always happens.
Right, a psychic helps the FBI. A con artist helps the FBI. Well, this was a magician helps an FBI. And it had a little bit of the feel of like Leverage, which was a show that I loved. So they were using all these illusions to help catch the bad guys, and she played one of the main characters, and it's a fun series.
I kind of sometimes wonder if network executives, when they're trying to fill that network programming schedule, if they just bring out a big wheel and just go spin and goes magician, and then they spin it again, FBI.
I think even a better is, like when you're a kid, you've got the book that has the top, the torso, and the legs. And you could mix and match.
You can fold it over.
Yeah,
and then,
that's another way to think of that. Like, oh, I'll do this, and this, and yes.
That's funny.
Yeah. So yes.
All right. So
good trivia, Charles.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. So we got 3 topics today. This should be a pretty straightforward episode to discuss. So topic number 1, let's talk the 10th Doctor, the Brannigans, and yes, we can talk about their also cute baby kitties.
Yes.
And the Cassinis.
Yeah.
So, since the Doctor and Martha kind of split up in this episode, I thought it'd be good to go ahead and split up the topic a little bit. So, any thoughts on the 10th Doctor in this episode and, and his encounters with the Brannigans and talking with the Cassinis, what you thought of those characters in the story?
So I think the big takeaway has to be his discussion of Gallifrey and the Time War, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you say what are the most significant parts of this episode,
And obviously that's at the end with where he talks to Martha. Yes.
Yeah. So that I think we also get some nice moments of, I like the way, and this is why I like the episode more than I thought I did, is the idea that the Doctor is feeling guilty because he wasn't taking her serious, right? Like he was just going on a jaunt. They were going to go. He's still thinking of Rose and
taking her to the same planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Not really thinking about what he's doing.
Yeah, and like she mentions that, right? Like rebound. And all of a sudden it hits him how
after she gets kidnapped.
Yeah, how irresponsible he has been.
This is a good moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that in him driven to, I've got to take care of her, I've got to rescue her. So I thought that was a really nice, and I think that's why I went, oh, this is a better episode than I thought. This isn't just the traffic jam episode. There is some nice moments. So that's where I get the Doctor. We get the, he is charming and he's smug at the beginning. And then, then he gets, for the Doctor, actually a little panicky, I think. Right, like he's truly concerned about, oh crap, I've kind of let this person, Martha, out of my sight, and now then she's hurt. So I really like them. How about you? Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of one of the few episodes where the Doctor kind of takes direct responsibility for the companions.
Yes, he does.
As opposed to just just kind of warning them, like don't wander off and get into trouble. Here he's realizing that, I could have done that better.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe he was a little regretting being a little cocky. And that's one of the failings, I think, of the 10th Doctor that a lot of people tend to overlook, is that he is cocky. He is arrogant, as all get out. And the Doctor, here and there, depending on the incarnation, can be arrogant. The first Doctor is certainly arrogant.
Yes.
In that. And so was the 6th Doctor, extremely arrogant.
Yeah.
But I think the 10th Doctor also had that tendency.
I think that's a really fair...
especially when he obviously becomes the Time Lord victorious.
And I think that's a really fair assessment. And by far, I'm on record. I love Tennant as the Doctor. But that doesn't mean I can't recognize that...
Well, he doesn't have to be perfect.
Right. As an actor, he makes choices. And there is a arrogance to him. Like we just did the two-parter, right? Family of Blood. And at the end, he's
human nature.
Yeah, very arrogant at the end. Like, I'm going to punish these people, that I'm going to hurt them because how dare they have, made me, go through these emotions and feel these things. So I think that's a really good point, Charles. I like it a lot.
And obviously he's very reluctant, the Doctor, to talk about his homeworld, Gallifrey, because Martha's asking him about it. But, hey, why don't we go there? And the Doctor is kind of being very evasive. He's like, nah, why do I want to go there? Where's the fun in that for me?
Yeah, where would I go? Yeah, exactly.
Which again is another a bit of arrogance there.
Very arrogant, like, well, I don't want to go to this. I
don't care if you want to have fun doing it. This would be fun for you. What about the fun for me?
Yeah, like, I've already seen this movie. Why would I take you? Like, I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it may be a great movie, but hey, I want to go someplace where I haven't seen or not. So I thought that was really well done.
For the record, I will go see Raiders of the Lost Ark anytime anybody wants to go see it.
Thank you.
Because that's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yes, that's because you were smart.
That is easily in my top 10.
I also really, I like how he describes the planet. And then later...
Because at the end, Martha, basically says, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, she grabs a chair, sits down, is like, okay, you are going to tell me what's the deal with your planet? What's the deal with you? Why are you acting this way? I need to know this if we're going to keep traveling.
I thought that was a great scene, and we'll talk a little bit more of that when we get to Martha, right? But I thought it was a really nice ending where he explains.
Well, we can approach this from the Doctor's perspective. Yeah.
And the idea, right, that we're watching this after how many years of Modern Who have we had? 10?
Well, 15.
Okay, 15. Right, so we have 15 years of experience of, we know what the time war is. We know what would happen. We saw, we saw the War Doctor. We saw, we know that Gallifrey really didn't fall. We know that supposedly Gallifrey is gone again. We don't know that.
Yes.
We have all this going in, but
this is 2007, so this is only series 3.
Yeah, there's none of that, right?
Yeah, it's very, there's a lot of like blank space on that whiteboard.
Yes.
For writers to fill in some of the gaps. Obviously Russell T Davies fills in a little bit more, and then Stephen Moffat comes along, does his little thing, and essentially like Stephen Moffat comes in, erases what Russell T Davies did, and then writes his own thing, and then Chris Chibnall comes in and erases what Stephen Moffat did and writes his own thing.
And I think I when I look at it from that view, I go, this must have been really cool for New Who viewers might like me, I don't really catch anything of that, but existing Who fans must have really latched onto that, because I do, now that I've been a more, as you said, seasoned, Doctor Who in the universe. Yeah, I see that in a lot better. So, really, really well done.
So what do you think of the Brannigans?
So what's not to love, right? This guy is just so charming.
Thomas.
Yeah, he has the, he's kissed the Blarney Stone. Is that right? I mean, he has the gift of gab. He is a smooth talker. He flirts with the girls. Like, oh, don't be saying that. I'm an old-fashioned cat, And he's
I'm guessing he's a Catholic cat. But.
Yes. And because, look at the amount of children they had, right? And they're really a really nice relationship with him and his wife. And his enthusiasm, like, ooh, we moved 20 feet. Man, we're really kicking it today.
Yeah.
It was just charming and funny. And I liked him a lot. He was an interesting character. And once again, take a drink. Here is somebody you would have loved to seen later, right, in another universe.
This was obviously, one of those characters that, and I'm sure this is what you're alluding to, is that, would make a great potential companion.
Yes.
Or, at least a great recurring character.
Yes, to see somebody again.
And I was talking about this with Lori, as we were doing our rewatch, that it just seems like such a waste that we never got to see Brannigan again. Because it's just such a great character, such a fun character.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you kind of want to see Brannigan hanging out with Captain Jack.
Yes, absolutely.
Just to see what would happen, right? Or River Song, something like that.
It would have been, yes.
I thought it would have been really interesting. But, he looks cool. Like he's this big, happy cat guy. And he's got, like old aviator goggles on. And like he's a pilot. And he just has this really cool look about him and demeanor.
He does look good in those aviator glasses. I mean, that looks. I have goggle envy. I was like, oh, yes. I'd love a pair of those. Where would you wear them, Jesse? I don't know. It just would be cool to have them. I could wear them when I'm talking to Charles on the podcast.
There you go. Yeah, that's cool, right?
Exactly.
So, were you surprised at all by the fact that Mr. and Mrs. Brannigan had a litter of kittens?
I thought that was pretty funny, right?
Yeah.
That it was just because, we love kittens. Kittens look cute.
Right.
And the idea they don't even try to make them look like they would, be hybrid. It's just, they're just kittens. And then you start
presuming that they'll grow up and sort of be sort of half human as they get older. Yeah.
And you can't spend too much time on, that's going to be a crowded car, with their due.
Once they grow,
Yeah. So yeah,
But now they don't have to. Now they don't have to worry.
Now
about
they
it.
don't. The Doctor has saved them all. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. But Laurie was, obviously Laurie being, huge cat person
Yes.
and cat rescuer and all that. She's, trying to think. I was like, okay, so how does that work? Like how did she give birth to kittens?
Yeah.
and I just looked at her and went, it's Doctor Who.
Yes.
You just roll with it.
Right.
Roll with it. Move on.
I do think that's some valid concerns, though. Yes.
And any thoughts about the Cassinis, our older couple that was helping out the Doctor?
Yeah, they were a cute couple, right?
The research, like one's like a car, car spotter as opposed to like a bird watcher, a bird spotter.
And that was, and so I thought that was a neat, one of the nice touches of the episodes, Charles, my complaint is all the vehicles looking the same. I think that's a little bit of a give up on the special effects, that you would not have.
So they could do copy and paste.
Right,
really easily.
exactly. And you would not have the same model of because look at a highway now. There isn't the same car. They may look vaguely alike, but not. But they make up for it with the interior design of each car, each vehicle.
Yeah, obviously each car reflects the driver.
And I thought that was really nice to have these two older ladies, like, you can just see, one of them with her book and her knitting, and they have it looks like Afghans and a really soft, decor. And then while others you have you have the nudist and you have the business guy and you have all the other people, and each of them a little bit different. And that was kind of fun as the Doctor goes, from one car to another car to another car. I did like the fact that he grabbed the purple handkerchief, like, hey, can I have this? Can I borrow this?
The handkerchief.
Yeah, that was cool, which was very appropriate with today's, everything going on with us today, right?
Yeah, exactly. Very timely.
Absolutely.
He was doing the personal protective equipment before it was cool. So I loved, so Jesse's pulling out a blinded by the light handkerchief.
Yes.
That he got from presumably a screening.
Absolutely.
Yep. I kind of wondered, like I was watching the Doctor go from car to car. Wouldn't it kind of been funny if he would have come across somebody having sex?
The other thing I thought...
Now, granted, it's a family show, but...
Yes, and he had the nudist, yeah.
He found the nudist, but I still think it would have been like, all kinds of awkward had he come across somebody, like a couple having sex.
What I thought was interesting, too, is he does not look like he did a very good job of making sure they sealed the bottom up, like when he jumped,
right.
like okay, because I was like, okay, you're letting the fumes in. Seal that.
Yeah.
Tell them, like, will they be able to seal it up without a sonic screwdriver? So that was the kind of thing I thought of.
Well, yeah, because he's just going from cutting holes and or climbing in. I don't know. Maybe they had hatches in some of those that he was able to access, but yeah, if he's cutting holes in them, you would think it would let all that poison gas in. So
Absolutely.
kind of a little story hole there, plot hole a little bit. All right. I love the Brannigans. I love especially Thomas. He's just such a fun character, and it shows. It was really nice, because he has faith in the Doctor, especially and his faith is rewarded because the Doctor helps free them, from being trapped underground. And he's kind of like, yeah, see, I told you so. You're men of your word. So I thought that was nice. And
one of the things that I liked his belief in the Doctor. I do think that was interesting. And now one nitpick, right, is that, well, because we're on friends lists, we can communicate. And later we threw that subplot away. Anyone could communicate with anyone else. Yes, we had the David Tennant sonic screwdriver ready to use, not the Matt Smith.
Jesse's playing with his sonic screwdrivers. Yep. Oh, you got the Jodie Whittaker, very current.
Yes, in my Doctor Who. Yeah, it says, "Is this a sonic screwdriver, or are you just happy to see me?" Yeah. These are kept on my desk. Yes.
All right. And the Cassinis, I thought it was an adorable couple. I loved, like I said, that one of them was a car spotter, And the doctor's kind of, a little bit because understandably he's upset. He wants, Martha back now. And he's a little brusque with them, and even Brannigan is kind of has to come to their defense a little bit. Like, look, they tried to help you. So, and, the doctor has to kind of take a step back at that moment.
Well, and I also love they were a couple that's comfortable with being each other. And for such a short amount of time, they're really fully formed characters, right? Like, just by luck, I'm married to a car watcher,
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff. Yeah, it was a nice moment.
Yeah, it was. All right. Anything else about these characters before we move on?
No, sir.
All right. Topic number 2, let's talk about Martha Jones and also Milo and Sheen and the Macra.
Yes.
Macra. So very happy to get the Macra after 40 years of being off Doctor Who. They finally make their return, although in a slightly devolved state. So what are your thoughts about these characters?
So I thought it was kind of fun that they ended up using, I did not know it was an existing villain creature, right. But, it was nice that he could recognize him. He told why. He talked about they've been de-evolved, and basically, they're scavengers at the bottom of this, highway, or, and...
Yeah, they're just kind of mindless beasts at this point.
Yeah, and just one by one, devouring the vehicles as they get to the fast lane. And so I thought that was a unique perspective and kind of fun.
I'm sure Russell T. Davies thought he needed a monster.
Yes.
At the bottom.
Yes.
And, to justify the cars disappearing.
Yes.
And he probably thought, well, hey, why don't I just use an old monster?
Yeah.
And he probably went well, who hasn't appeared on Doctor Who since their first appearance? And he probably thought, oh, the Macra, I could use them.
Yeah, which is great. The other thing I thought was interesting is you see why Martha has baggage as a companion. And this was not fair to Freeman, right? The writers chose her to have a crush, and that and she's wearing her heart on her sleeve with the Doctor, and that irritated a lot of people because of Rose just being they didn't really want the storyline. I've always liked Martha because I feel like she's really strong-willed. Being a doctor, she is independent on her own. She has that great scene where turn everything off. And they're like, how did you know that? Saw it in a submarine movie, which is true, right? Like every submarine movie has that scene. We're like, okay, we're going to run silent. And someone drops a fork or something, on the thing. They're like, shh.
Looking at you, Hunt for Red October.
Yes. And I love that. And then I also love the comedy of, what do we do next? I don't remember the next part of the movie. That was a funny line. Yeah, I liked her. I liked her bonding with the couple. And they were not bad people. They're just, we need 3 people. We just need 3 people that we can get to the fast lane. We'll get this quickly. And, and in their terms, 6 years is a short amount of time, compared to what everyone else is going through. So They're not necessarily, they're like, okay, this is just a little inconvenience, which it's not. But I like that dynamics, and I like the 3 of them in the car. So that was a neat. I really liked seeing Martha kind of, as you mentioned, they're separated, and her kind of having to fend things for her own way and figure out her own kind of survival, even though the Doctor ultimately saves the day.
Yeah, I mean, this episode is great. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but for that very reason that Martha is very resourceful. And
she is.
And one of the reasons I really like Martha is that I think she has a little bit more on the ball than Rose does.
Yes.
She's older than Rose. She's got the medical background. She's more of a scientist. And as a result, she's used to thinking in these situations. She relies on her intelligence. And, and Martha, she just happens to be the victim of a kidnapping in this episode. Milo and Sheen, I think you talked about that. They just took Martha. They weren't bad people, but because they needed a third person, but they did it against Martha's will.
Yes, they did.
Instead of just asking someone, hey, would you please join us so we can have 3 people, they took her against her will at what she thought was gunpoint.
Yeah.
And ultimately the gun turns out to be a fake, a prop, but it still doesn't change the fact that, she's held there against her will. And to make matters worse, essentially she's stuck there.
Yes.
And with the intent that, well, hey, we're going to be here for years. And Martha's just like, what?
Yeah.
And and you're going how far? That's it?
Yeah, I didn't sign up for this. I signed up to see the universe, not
Right.
sit in a car for, 6 years.
Exactly. Not to be your passenger. But it was great to see Martha thinking on her feet. Obviously she's the one that kind of helps them, guide them through a lot of their problems with the Macra, getting them around and advising them on how to, what to do to stay silent and all that. So I really like that.
I did too.
And then, of course, the Macra, at this point, we hadn't gotten the episode. When this episode aired in 2007, obviously the Macra Terror was only something that, it was one of those lost stories.
Oh, did not know that.
Yeah, so all you had was the audio and, novelizations and whatnot. So it was recently restored through animation. John Takis and I talked about it here on Next Stop Everywhere not too long ago. So that was kind of cool to finally get to see that story completed through animation, restored through animation. But interestingly, the Macra, like when Doctor Who villains, return from the classic era are brought back, usually they're more formidable than ever.
Yes.
Just as the show has evolved, the villains have evolved.
Bigger, stronger, faster,
exactly.
more dangerous. Yeah,
but in the case of the Macra, it's the opposite. Because the Macra were a very intelligent species in the Macra Terror, the story from the Troughton era, Patrick Troughton era. But now they've been just reduced to this, they're just mindless beasts clawing at everything for food. Because they're the only type of creatures that could survive in this poisonous gas. So I almost kind of sort of feel sorry for the Macra that now they're just being instinctive animals as opposed to the more formidable threat that they used to be in the Macra Terror. So it just feels like a little bit of a come down, but obviously there's always a chance that maybe you could go back and into their past and face them once again as a more intelligent species.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think might be kind of interesting at this point.
I think it would be interesting. No, I get that they're just trying to survive, right? They're just trying to do what they need to do, and that is
just like any animal in the wild trying to survive, right?
Absolutely.
And that's all they're doing. But yeah, and I loved Martha sitting the doctor down, forcing him to tell her, what his deal is. I thought that was a good moment. And you notice it kind of bookended the episode because we talked about how the doctor was flippant at the beginning, kind of blowing her off, being evasive about the fact that Gallifrey, as far as he knew, was no more. And then finally owning up, finally coming out with some, putting all that secretive tendency that he has aside for once and coming clean to her. I thought was a very good moment and a good way to end the episode.
Yeah, I love that scene we mentioned already, but where she finds an old abandoned chair and just sits there. Like, I'm not going anywhere else. And at first, he doesn't acknowledge it, right? He's just walking. He continues like, okay, we gotta go. And then when she stubbornly refuses, then he gets a chair, sits down, and then they're communicating. I thought that was
which
nice.
matches the other first chair exactly, in case you were wondering.
I did notice that, yes.
Yeah. Just how it happened, they had a matching set. Well, that's good.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else about these characters?
No, I can't think of anything.
All right. Topic number 3, final topic today. We got to talk about Novice Hame and the face of Bo in his final appearance on Doctor Who. So lots to unpack here. Novice Hame, obviously she's a character that, we were introduced to in New Earth where I think she was, helping the, Sisters of Plenitude or whatever, and doing those experiments on humans with all the ailments to try to come up with cures for them, but going about it a very unethical way. And we find out through the course of the story that essentially she's kind of been co-opted by the Face of Bo, and essentially becoming, the Face of Bo's handyman or
Nurse,
caretaker, assistant, whatever, Cat Friday, if you will.
Yes.
And as a result, it's essentially what Novice Hame is feeling is penance for all her crimes, all the cruel things that she did in New Earth. And obviously some time has passed. She's much older now than when the Doctor first encountered her in New Earth. And, it was kind of interesting to kind of see a former villain doing a heel turn in this one, to use a wrestling phrase.
Yeah, I agree.
So what did you make of that?
So I do not remember New Earth very much. So
guess we're going to have to talk about it.
Yeah, I guess we're going to have to. I liked her in this episode. I liked her kind of, it feels like she's on a redemption arc.
Yes.
Being very, the Doctor, like, hey, you were doing that. Oh yeah, but I'm reformed now.
Right.
I do.
No, trust me, I'm a good guy now.
Yeah, I did like the support she was giving to the Face of Bo. I like her finding the Doctor and trying to make that happen. So, and I'm a little confused about the Face of Bo. I know the theory,
yes,
right? That is, and I'll let you cover about that. But
the implications,
yeah. Right? Like we've never officially, no one has said yes, you're right. That's just the implication.
Yeah. So let's talk about that since you brought it up. So the Face of Bo, we know that while we were, I think it was the last time, like I want to say in Journey's End maybe, that where Captain Jack had kind of made this offhand comment to the Doctor as he's kind of saying goodbye and saying that, well, they used to call me the Face of Bo.
Yeah, because he implies I am aging slightly. Like I've seen a gray hair or a wrinkle here to imply that he won't stay just the way he is.
Right. So essentially this was Russell T. Davies hinting that, maybe Captain Jack becomes the Face of Bo as, he gets much, much, much older. Now, the question is, well, how does Captain Jack turn from a standard humanoid in appearance to like this ginormous face with some tentacles on the end in a jar with no body? There's no real explanation for that.
Yeah.
And so as a result, it's kind of been an open question. I'm sure some fans are like, oh yeah, hey, he becomes the Face of Bo. That's cool. But I'm kind of more of the opinion, and maybe you can tell me how you stand. I don't buy that until we get a much more substantive explanation. What about you?
I'm right there with you. I'm not saying I'm opposed to this theory. There's too many holes in it. Like, why would this happen? Like as you continue to evolve, why would you, like Cassandra had so much surgery is the reason why she became skin, right? Well, so I don't see Captain Jack doing a lot of surgery. So why would he have kept growing and growing and growing, like to become a giant face and lose his body? It just doesn't
make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it's clever.
Especially after Children of Earth, where we talked about this, where Jack essentially was pretty much, burnt to a crisp, and decayed into hardly anything. And then his body regenerates. But you notice when his body regenerates, it's not anything different. He just returns back to the way Jack looks. So presumably he would keep doing that same thing over and over and over, like a true immortal. So unless there was some other outside factor, some kind of chemical agent or virus or something. But again, we don't know. That's never been explained. It just doesn't make sense.
If it was an accident, he would generate,
Yeah.
he comes back.
Essentially, he's a starfish,
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
you cut off that one body part and he's just going to grow it right back.
Yeah, so I'm right there with you, and I'm glad you feel that way.
Yeah, like I said, until we get that story, and we may never get that story. It's hard to say. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Certainly something for Big Finish to explore, I would think, at least. Yeah, I don't buy that. I don't buy that one. I just kind of take the face of Bo as like, maybe it was just a coincidence, or maybe the face of Bo, like he met Jack at one point and took that, like Jack made that comment, and the face of Bo kind of just took that name and ran with it as an alias.
And I had not spent enough time with this character to be overly sad by his passing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always sad when someone, a character dies,
Right.
but I did not have an emotional. I thought
attachment.
that Tennant played it really well. Like, this is my old friend. Like, oh, you're going to be fine. And then we get the mysterious "you're not alone," which I assume we later find out is because the Master's alive, so he isn't.
Yeah, that's essentially the big revelation. They even confirmed this in Utopia. The whole "you are not alone." It's Yana for Yana.
Yeah.
The Master's alias in Utopia.
Nice.
So essentially, yeah, that's confirmed. Yeah, I mean, we saw the face of Bo only like a couple times. He was in the Eccleston era story, The End of the World, the second episode of Modern Who, where he didn't say anything. He was just kind of like a background character.
Yes.
And then he kind of talked a little bit in New Earth and said, well, hey, I got to tell you something, but I'm not going to tell you now. And then we pick up another year later in Gridlock. So it's like almost like this Face of Bo trilogy.
Right.
If you could call it that. And then finally in Gridlock, he's dying, he's on his last legs, but he's going like, oh, hey, I'm about to check out, but doctor, you are not alone.
Yeah.
And then he dies.
Yeah.
So purpose solved, like he fulfilled his purpose, but there really wasn't that much to him.
I agree.
Apart from just being a big old face in a jar that says one ominous thing and then he dies.
Yeah.
That's his whole deal. And he looked cool. That's it.
Yes, I agree. He looks very cool.
Yeah. So, in Novice Hame, I thought it was interesting, but yeah, she's doing her redemption arc, and the question now is like, presumably, she's going to help lead New Earth, New York at least, and hopefully to brighter days ahead. So we'll see. And we got a little bit of closure with her character in that the Secret of Novice Hame little webisode that was appeared, during the Doctor Who lockdown. So we got a little closure with that. But here, mostly she's just kind of like an errand girl.
Yes.
For the face of Bo, sent to go get the doctor, and then once she gets the doctor, teleports him to the capital where he can see the face of Bo die.
Yeah. And
that's it.
Save the day,
and save the day. He figures out how to
do some computer things, and yes.
He does the doctor thing, and he figures out how to open those doors, keeping everybody trapped in the Undercity. So that was it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anything else about this episode? Like I said, it's pretty straightforward.
No, like I said, I've already mentioned my nitpick about all the cars looking the same. No, it was, like I said, it was a better episode than I remembered. But
right.
It is not one of those I'm going to put like, oh, you really should watch this one. You'll love Doctor Who if you watch this episode.
Yeah. I think a lot of people enjoy this one. It's just a fun episode. It's kind of mindless. It's not one of those, obviously there's heavier episodes ahead, especially the Master Trilogy.
Yes.
Ahead. So this one is just a fun little piece of popcorn to enjoy. Nothing wrong with it. Just tastes good, goes down easy, and you enjoy it.
Okay.
So, favorite lines? Do you have any favorite quotes of the episode?
I did love the when the doctor takes his jacket off and he throws it and he says, "Look after this. I love this coat. Janis Joplin gave me that coat."
Yeah, that was good.
I thought that was a great line. And
you notice he's all insistent about getting his coat back.
Absolutely.
But doesn't give a crap about giving that person their handkerchief back.
Good point, Charles. Good point. I wonder if I wonder if on Jodie Whittaker somewhere in the TARDIS is like, hey, there's a
Yeah.
purple kerchief.
I should give that back. That would be kind of funny. All right. Any more quotes?
The only other one that I thought, which really you talked about the arrogance of the Doctor, and he admits that, is when Thomas Kincade Brannigan goes, "This is Martha. She must mean a lot to you." And the Doctor, "Hardly know her. I was too busy showing off." And I think he admits his arrogance, and that's why he truly wants to help her. How about you? You got any?
Yeah, obviously Martha with the Doctor at the beginning, we kind of talked about this a little bit, where Martha says, "When you say last time, was that with you and Rose?" And the Doctor's kind of gets a little awkward at that moment. Yeah, it was, yeah. Martha, kind of looking a little bit put out at this point, says, "You're taking me to the same planets that you took her?" And the Doctor's like, "What's wrong with that?" And Martha replies, "Nothing. Just ever heard of the word rebound?" Because she knows exactly what he's doing. He's still pining over Rose.
Yes, he is.
And, oh, Rose, poor boo-hoo. And here's Martha, pining over the Doctor, but it's all just one-sided this time, sadly. I love Valerie with Thomas, as Valerie sees the Doctor climbing down, from their car to the next car, talking about the Doctor going, "He's completely insane." And Thomas replies, "That and a bit magnificent."
Yes, I did think that was a great line.
That was a great line. The Doctor talking about the end, where Novice Hame is possibly taking over, and he says, New York can start again. And they've got Novice Hame, just what every city needs, cats in charge. Which my wife Lori would be totally for, by the way.
I knew you would like that. Yes, I'm sure you and Lori would like that line.
Yeah, she was all in on that. And considering the state of our politics these days,
I'm just saying, that's not a bad plan.
Cats might be better.
Exactly.
Yeah. And lastly, the Doctor talking with Martha, where he finally sits down and opens up to her at long last. The Doctor says, "I lied to you because I liked it. I could pretend just for a little bit. I could imagine they were still alive underneath that burnt orange sky. I'm not just a Time Lord. I'm the last of the Time Lords. The face of Bo was wrong. There's no one else." And Martha asks, "What happened?" The Doctor replies, "There was a war. A time war, the last great time war. My people fought a race called the Daleks for the sake of all creation, and they lost. We lost. Everyone lost. They're all gone now. My family, my friends, even that sky. Oh, you should have seen it, that old planet. The second sun would rise in the south, and the mountains would shine. The leaves on the trees were silver. When they caught the light every morning, it looked like a forest on fire."
Beautiful. Really nice.
So, and then you just like, "Okay, tell me more."
Yes.
And you just kind of sit there with your hands on your fists going, "Tell me more."
Exactly.
Or your head on your fist, I should say. All right. So what's your rating?
Perfectly fine episode. Nothing outstanding. I'm giving it 7 out of 10 recycled food cakes.
Okay. I'd like this one a little bit more than you, probably because Brannigan is such a great character.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm giving this one 8 out of 10 hungry macras.
I was going to go Janis Joplin coats, but I figured you would have used that one. So I like the hungry macras. That's good.
Yeah, like hungry hippos. Only, wouldn't that be a cooler version of Doctor Who version?
Yes, it would
hungry
be.
Macras, claw, 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 claw.
Absolutely, yes.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. All right. Reverse the polarity. This one should be pretty easy considering what we've been talking about this episode. So obviously we've got to reverse the polarity back to 1967 with the Macra Terror, the 7th serial of Season 4, written by Ian Stewart Black. And in this one, as we talked about here on Next Stop Everywhere, the second Doctor, Ben, Polly, and Jamie reach an unnamed planet in Earth's colonial future, concerned about seeing a claw from observing the TARDIS's time scanner. Upon landing, they subdue a half-crazed colonist named Medoc, who is promptly arrested by Security Chief Ola. The travelers are escorted by Ola to a colony which refines a poison gas for unknown reasons. The Doctor is troubled by the colony's forced festivities, remaining unconvinced by the promises of the colony's pilot and the wishes of the mysterious controller, who appears on a monitor as a still image to welcome the colony's guests. The doctor finds Medoc learning more of the colony's infestation, and those that see the creatures are hospitalized and reconditioned. The doctor and Medoc investigate and find giant crab-like macra roaming the colony. The pilot is told by the controller to hypnotize their guests to work in the mines, with Jamie resisting, but Ben succumbing to the brainwashing. The doctor is arrested alongside Jamie when he disables the hypnosis equipment after snapping Polly out of her trance. At the doctor's insistence, the pilot is forced to request the controller reveal his true face, with the group seeing an aged and terrified old man killed by the macra, the controller's true identity. The pilot regains his composure and sentences the doctor, Polly, and Jamie to hard labor in the most treacherous part of the mine. Medoc has also been sentenced to life there after his reconditioning failed, and he warns them of the area's high mortality rate. Jamie and Medoc escape, but Medoc is seized by a macra claw and dragged away to his death. Jamie comes face to face with the giant macra, which seems to be sleeping until a burst of the deadly gas rejuvenates the creature. Other macra soon appear and advance on Jamie. The doctor sows seeds of doubt regarding the truth of the planet in the minds of colonists and Ben, whose conditioning is finally weakening. The doctor has worked out the gas flow is the key to the situation, and he reverses it from the mind control area. The improved oxygen flow weakens the macra, enabling Jamie to escape to safety. The doctor and Polly infiltrate the control area and find it overrun with macra, with the doctor realizing that the macra need the gas to survive and have brainwashed the colonists into serving their needs. Ola demands that the travelers be punished for disobeying control, but the doctor persuades the pilot to accompany him to the control center. With their hold on the pilot broken, the macra give Ola a full authority to place the doctor, the pilot, Polly, and Jamie in an era of the mine where the mixture of combustible gases will shortly explode. Ben, who finally breaks his conditioning, frees them, and the manipulation of the gas pipes sends the combustible mixture to the control center. When the gas explodes, all the macra are killed. Later, when everything's all said and done, the doctor and his companions watch as the colony celebrates their freedom while declaring a holiday in their hero's honor. Ben tells the doctor that the colony wants to make the doctor the next pilot, and the doctor is understandably horrified at the idea, so they just try to discreetly leave and head back to the TARDIS. The end.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
All right. So we have a couple of feedbacks from our wonderful people writing in. So we have David K. Proctor writing in, and we also have Holly Mack.
You want me to do Holly this time?
It's up to you. Yeah, you can do Holly this time if you want.
All right.
So David K. Proctor writes in, Dave Proctor as we now know him, says, I feel like this episode is a bit of filler, referring, of course, to Gridlock. It fits the formula without having big impact. New planet companion runs off. Doctor searches. It starts with a trip that is just an afterthought. It had a feeling of the doctor phoning it in. Perhaps he is trying to mend the gap in his life where Rose fit. This prevents Martha from reaching her potential. Of course, she manages this on her own later. So, New Earth is dealing with overcrowding and excessive pollution, the never-ending story. Martha didn't like having to visit places that the doctor took Rose. This frames the relationship as a rebound, and as stated above, Martha is made to feel slighted. The police put you on hold. I hope this isn't prophecy. The macra, way to shout back to the Troughton years. And do we count this as a Captain Jack Harkness episode? And Jesse and I argue no.
Yeah, we would make the point no. Exactly.
Yeah. He goes, I give this 7 kittens in a caravan. British, of course, for RV. Thanks, Dave Proctor.
Very nice, Dave. Thank you very
Dave.
much.
Always great to hear from you. Thank you so much for writing in. And then, of course, we have Holly.
Here we go. Holly says, hey, all. A very enjoyable,
Hey, Holly.
Yes, a very enjoyable episode with the 10th Doctor and Martha, and you can almost consider this a bottle show with most of the characters within their ships. Loved all the characters that the Doctor and Martha interacted with, and we also get the return of the Macra, and also the face of Bo, who gives the Doctor the news that he is not alone, which foreshadows what will happen in the last few episodes of the season. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, always great to hear from Holly, of course. Everybody check out Holly and the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. She's good people. And we can't wait to have her back here on Next Stop Everywhere as well.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So everybody, if you want to be like Holly and Dave, and please do, we always love hearing from you guys. We don't have to just hear from Holly and Dave, although we do love hearing from Holly and Dave. So write to us at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. That's nextstopeverywheresmg for Southgate Media Group @gmail.com. Otherwise, you can reach us on the Twitter machine at nextstopsmg, Facebook, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, and Instagram at Next Stop Everywhere podcast. We'd love it if you liked and follow us. I know we hit 400 likes on our Facebook page. Thank you so much for that. It's very cool. So on to the mighty 500, I guess.
Absolutely.
So everybody, thanks for your help with that, and try to push that a little further. Jesse, how about you? Where can they reach you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at JesseJacksonDFW. You can hear me talk with Charles coming up on the Phantom Zone podcast. We'll be talking season 1 of the Umbrella Academy, which was a very lovely surprise. And so I haven't started season 2 yet, but I am.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I hear it is. I hear it's set in Dallas, so that gives us a little kind of a special kind of connection to me.
1963 Dallas.
Gosh, I wonder what happens then.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's the day before the first episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, so they go back to be able to watch Doctor Who in its original. Yes.
Although they'd have to go over to the UK to do that, because it wasn't airing here at that time.
No, it was not. You can also check out me on Set Listing Bruce, where I talk to Bruce Springsteen fans from around the world. September is the 5th anniversary of the podcast, and so we have some fun episodes. And coming up shortly is Charles visiting with me, where we pick what concerts we would go to in the past if we had access to the TARDIS.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, the potential, if you had a TARDIS, there's a lot of things you could do. But we kind of kept the topic a little limited to okay, what concerts would you go to?
Well, because Set Listing Bruce is a music podcast, so there we go.
Exactly.
If we were doing a history podcast, it would be a different topic. Charles, how about you? Where can they?
Although more and more it's becoming a Doctor Who podcast. I'm just noticing this.
Hey, there is a little bit of that. So tell me a little bit. Where can people hear from you?
Well, first you can find me on Twitter at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, or on Instagram at Charles Skaggs, coincidentally enough, or Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog of Geeky Things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. We're talking about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere. Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, all kinds of comic book sci-fi goodness, news of my other podcasts they do for Southgate Media, including the Phantom Zone podcast, where Jesse said we're going to be doing a special episode where we kind of do season 1 of the Umbrella Academy in review. I'm not going to be doing individual episodes. And then Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, where DJ Nick and I recently concluded Doom Patrol season 2. And we're kind of on hold right now, on hiatus, indefinitely until we get some more news. Hopefully we'll get some more news coming out of DC Fandom here in a couple of weeks, when they kind of have talk a little bit more about their TV show programming. So hopefully we'll get some more Titans season 3 news, and hopefully some Doom Patrol season 3 news, and that would be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully we'll get to talk more soon. And then, of course, Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast, that I do with Zan Sprouse, whom you've heard here on Next Stop Everywhere, and will again very, very soon. As currently, right now, normally we talk Twin Peaks and David Lynch, but right now we are just about to be, next week we're going to be recording our 3rd in our 6-episode retrospective of Twin Peaks actors who have appeared on the X-Files. So we're kind of doing a little X-Files reviews here, and we talked Don Davis, and we talked, we're going to be talking Michael Horse coming up in the episode Shapes. So that's a fun one from the first season of the X-Files, so that should be a lot of fun. We talked also, of course, David Duchovny, who, hey, just happens to co-star in the X-Files. So it kind of made sense to talk about it here on Ghostwood. So
Absolutely.
hope everybody, a lot of people seem to be enjoying it. We're getting a lot of great interest on this one. A lot of different people writing in, including a certain Jesse Jackson.
I am. I'm along for the ride. This has been a lot of fun.
So if you want a little bit of unofficial Jesse crossover on Ghostwood, I definitely recommend checking out our X-Files reviews.
Absolutely. I agree.
And of course, DJ Nick might appear. Holly might appear.
Yeah.
Okay, they probably will appear, but regardless, yeah. So if you enjoy these wonderful people, check out Ghostwood. We definitely appreciate it. All right, next time and next up everywhere, episode 199.
Ooh, that's close to 200.
Exactly. We'll be one away from the mighty 200, the mysterious enigmatic 200. But in episode 199, we're going to give you something a little bit different. Instead of talking a TV episode, we're going to be talking Destination Nerva, which, as I hold in my hand right here for all of you in podcast land, this is the very first audio adventure that Tom Baker did as the Fourth Doctor for Big Finish Productions. So, Destination Nerva. It also, of course, has Louise Jameson as Leela, one of my favorite companions from the Fourth Doctor era. So, and joining us on this very special episode, we're bringing in at long last, can't believe it's taken this long to do this, but we're finally bringing in Southgate Media Group's own Rob Southgate, joining us to talk Destination Nerva.
That's going to be fun.
Rob was in the mood as like, hey, let's talk a Big Finish Doctor Who. And he goes, I don't care which one you pick. So I picked this one, Destination Nerva.
That sounds like a good one.
And, obviously this was Tom Baker's return, long-awaited return as the Fourth Doctor. A lot of us were very eager about this. So I know Jesse hasn't heard this one yet.
No.
And I'm guessing Rob hasn't either. So I'd be very curious to get their reactions.
Yeah, this will be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
So if you're not familiar with it, go to bigfinish.com. You can download the story. It's only a two-parter, so it's only like 45 minutes. So it's a little cheaper than the 2 CD versions.
Okay, good.
But it's definitely worth listening, worth checking out, and it's also kind of a sequel to a story from the Tom Baker era.
Oh, nice.
So I'll just leave that there for now.
Little nugget, so to speak.
Got to tease it a little bit.
Yeah, we do. Got to do it.
So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Jesse, thank you so much. I know you're recording from work, so I appreciate your dedication, sir.
No problem. It was good. I couldn't miss this. First off, I never want to miss an episode, and secondly, we had no guest companion, so I was like, boy, Charles is going to be sitting there going...
Well, I could have rounded somebody up if you needed it.
Yeah, but Charles is like, and so what do you think? Well, I think Charles trying to do two voices. No, this was too good of a one to discuss, so very nice.
Well, Charles is usually used to talking to himself anyway.
Aren't we all? Yeah.
Exactly. So, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Come on back, episode 199, Destination Nerva with Rob Southgate. So come on back. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see you next time right here. Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.